So good afternoon, Bill, and here we are again.
Yes, Mark, another great episode, I hope, or not I hope, I know we'll come up with today, because when you introduced our guest, people will understand a little bit more about the retail trade.
They will, and I'm really pleased that Cameron's agreed, been coerced to come along today. So Cameron Brand from Mr. Brand, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
And I have to declare I've got a slight conflict in that I've been working with Cameron and the Brands family for a couple of years now, and it's a great story. So,
well, I'll ask the first question.
You can ask the first question, Bill.
Okay, Cameron, a two-part question. Where were you born and where were you brought up?
So in Geelong West. So I was brought up in Geelong West.
Hang on, we're in Geelong West today, so you haven't moved very far.
No, that's right. Yeah, I've sort of come full circle, if you like. I've gone and travelled and come back a bit. But yeah, I was born in Geelong and grew up on Maitland Street here in Geelong West, where I was sort of the first 18, 19 years of my life, which was great.
And did you go to school in Geelong? Obviously, if you're living here.
Yeah. So I was just up the road at Ashby. I was still going, and spent some time at both Western Heights College as well as the Geelong College through my high school, and eventually went over to the States and did some university over there before finishing up and entering the workforce. Well,
yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned Western Heights College. I don't know if you're aware, Mark, but I read somewhere recently the AFL have set up a specialised sports academy at Western Heights College.
Did know that.
And going to bring through young scholarship programs for young kids. So the States. So what did you do? I lost my tongue. What did you do in the States?
So business administration was my major, and I was there pursuing a baseball career as well as a baseball player growing up. And so there was a few different objectives as far as going over there and doing that, one of them being the potential of a baseball career, the other just being travel and experiencing what university overseas is like, as well as a degree.
So which university was it?
Travelled around a bit. I started at what's called a junior college in Arizona, and then I moved to a university in Texas called Lubbock Christian University. Yeah. And then I finished up at a school called Southern Polytechnic State University. I was in Georgia. So it often happens when you're in sport where you'll move around depending on what level you're at.
Well, that's an interesting story, because I'm amazed at how many Australian youngsters, I call them youngsters, sort of end of high school sporting potential who are on scholarships in America. In fact, in our own family, one of my nieces won a rowing scholarship to University of Michigan.
Right, amazing.
And she's been back a couple of years now, and she rowed everywhere and everyhow, and came out with her degree in social science, I think, but majoring in environmental sciences. So we did a podcast with an environmental scientist recently, and she's now working a very high profile job in New Zealand.
Great.
But I keep hearing of young kids on athletic scholarships in the States, which is great to hear.
For sure. Yeah, we've got some amazing athletes here. It's good to see that kids can go over and compete against some of the best that they've got, because sometimes it seems so far away and it seems like such a task that's so large. But I think once you're there, if you're consistent in your practice and you really make a go of it, you can compete.
So when did you last pick up a baseball bat?
Last night, actually.
Oh, did you?
Funnily enough, yeah. So I'm involved with a club here coaching this year, so that'll be a bit of fun.
Yeah, so you've kept an interest.
Yeah, still going. Yeah.
What got you into baseball, here or when you were in the States?
So I think because my mum is American, when I got involved in baseball at a very young age, it just stuck with me. And so I can always remember being involved in baseball. And I tried lots of other sports along the way, but baseball was one that I kept coming back to, that I enjoyed playing. And so all through my life, basically, I was playing baseball.
And the professional approach, just highly competitive? What?
Yeah, tough to get into. Just wasn't successful in that particular endeavour. Had some great success with my pursuits in college in particular, but wasn't successful in attracting that interest. So, yeah, that's when I entered the workforce.
Yeah,
And what was your first job?
My very first job?
Yeah, very first job.
Yeah, I think that it was at Futral's Pharmacy delivering prescriptions to folks in Geelong West on the bike. Yeah.
On a bike?
Yeah. So I'd load up the backpack and head out all down sort of Stubbs Ave way and that sort of area and, deliver whatever was needed.
Well, we interviewed somebody, didn't we, that did a paper round and he got paid more because he had the hilly part of the paper round.
That's right.
Did he negotiate for that? I wonder. Good on him.
So what brought you back from the States then? What was the...
So the opportunity to come into business with the family here was really the driving factor in bringing me back. I was pretty settled over there, quite happy. I'd been in the particular role that I was in for sort of 4 or so years. That company had grown. We were in digital marketing and advertising space, and so we were in an industry that was getting a lot of interest. Search engine optimization was growing. Facebook was going public. Its advertising platform was opening up. Like, we were pretty forward in all that space, and I was enjoying that. But the opportunity to come and get involved in a family business probably appealed to me in a few different ways. One of them was the longer I stayed overseas, the more I started to feel a sense of disconnection with the family. And so, there was a part of me that felt like I didn't want to be gone forever. And at that point, there was really no indication of coming back. Here, with the business, my dad and uncle who had been involved up until then were figuring out what succession for them looks like. And so there was a bit of notification that was coming my way to saying, hey, this conversation's happening. We're not too sure what, is going to, be the next phase of the business. And so conversation started to progress from there and become more and more serious. And I put on the table that I'd like to have an opportunity to get involved with something that they got the opportunity to. And then that eventually resulted in me coming back.
It's good, Bill, isn't it? Because the number of family businesses we chat to, and we do ask the succession question, and a lot of them don't know.
You're right.
At least your dad and your uncle were thinking
Cameron,
about.
I'm interested in the early history. Did I read correctly that your grandfather or somebody bought a block of land, and built a retail store on it?
Yeah.
In fact, and I saw a great photo on I think it was on your website or someone else's website of the early days, but that was a bold move in Packington Street in Geelong to get an empty block of land and start a new retail business. So tell us a bit about that journey.
Yeah, so the way I understand it, the story of the current store is the one you're referring to in that was an empty block. It was built under their instruction, and it's always been a menswear store. Like, that's what it was. Prior to that, though, they occupied, it's either the Geelong Fresh Foods building or the Gasman building, I'm not too sure, but one of them was the Drapery Centre, and they had a larger variety of inventory. And then prior to that, they actually were in the group of shops that's across from the North Geelong train station. There's a 2-story house there. It's got a cafe in the ground floor now. I don't know what happens upstairs. But the family moved into that premises first, and that's really where the roots of the business were started. The family lived above, and then they had the store
I know
below.
Exactly where that is, because there used to be a
sure.
hotel on the opposite corner, and as a kid I used to have to deliver drinks there for my father. And that was too long ago. We'll move past that. And you've recently renovated and upgraded your site.
Yeah, that's right. So we've reduced the size a little bit. We've modified the size is probably the better way to say it. But yeah, we've recently gone through a refurbishment and refit of the shop, done a rebrand, brought it much more in line with today's market, which has been really good. And that's been great to get a lot of feedback from folks that have been with us for a long time and respect that we've been able to hold on to a lot of the core elements that the business was built on, but also just freshen it up and make it more relevant with what people are wanting today.
So how have you survived when retail has been through so many ups and downs in recent times? And I know I go back to when my kids were in school in Melbourne. We lived in Kew, and I think I built 2 houses for Bob Stewart's Menswear in Kew.
Yeah, right.
In those days, and they're primary school uniforms, of course. But it's with the demise of retail, why is Mr. Brown successful when others haven't been so successful?
Yeah, there's a lot of narrative out there around the retail trade in particular and what's going to be the future of it and the rise of online shopping, for example. For us, the location has always been something that's been really strong. We're very well supported by a strong community of people that live in pretty close proximity, and we service those needs. And that's always been something that foundationally has really been strong for us. I have to give credit to the folks involved in the business through the mid-90s and so on who established a secondary business in what is called Brown's Corporate Uniforms. And we provide embroidery and screen printing and those types of services to businesses who are wanting to make the most of the corporate identity outcomes that putting a brand on your employees can provide. So that's helped to keep some additional revenues and stability coming into the organisation, even when retail is going through peaks and troughs and so on. So I suppose diversification is part of the answer, but customer service is what we would suggest really helps with the retention.
That's the answer I want to hear.
Okay.
But you also do formal wear, of course,
yes.
don't you? That's right. Yeah, and of course, it's seasonal.
Yep.
With all the formals that go on. Now, just talking about Packington Street, Mark, it's you and I know the retail, well, I guess the commercial scene in this regional town quite well. But if you walk up and down Packington Street, as I do every morning at the end of my morning walk, there are no vacancies. And if you go up to the other main shopping strip, which is High Street, there I counted 12 vacant shops. And we interviewed a young Zara the other day that's opened Little Paco.
Yeah.
And she's also opened the dress shop next door. And Packington Street is booming, and it's always booming. In fact, it's so busy you can't even drive down the street now.
Yeah.
You've got to bypass it to get around. So what is it about Packington Street?
Probably a lot. I suggest the business diversity, I think, is something that they've got really right. There's a great mix of businesses in there, and the businesses are of a high quality. People will often refer to the parking in particular as being easy to access and so on. But I think it's very walkable as well. So the fact that folks can really see a lot of different offers in a short amount of time while being on foot and enjoying a coffee or doing what they want to do, I think has a strong appeal. So I think there's a few factors there that really help Packington Street along as far as being as successful as it has been. So yeah, it's always been something that I've enjoyed going to, just living close by and so on. It was always great to walk to and check out the shops. So I think people just really like to.
I think it's
do
Mark.
that.
I reckon it's one of the best stories of a strip shopping centre I've come across in many years.
It's always been a strong strip shopping. The issue becomes, as councils try to dense up living and so on, how that blends in and because you need that population to grow.
That's right.
So,
All right, going back to clothes.
so before you do, you're still running or part involved in the Packington Street Traders? Is that
Yep,
still
that's
going?
right. Yep, still involved in that.
Talk a bit about that.
Sure, yeah, no worries. I think just on that last point as well, I think because Packington Street has so many businesses that are owner-occupied, it means that it's a unique offering that can't be replicated. What you see when you go to Packington Street, not unlike some other Main Street experiences, but it's a unique one-of-a-kind offering. You can't get that experience anywhere else. And so that instantly creates a sense of flavour. And it just happens to be, I think, that the shop owners on Paco in particular get it right a lot of the time. You know, there's been some really good businesses there, and there continues to be. And so that kind of self-perpetuates its reputation and attracts new folks like the guys at Little Paco and so on that are wanting to occupy that space because they've got quality businesses around them, and it attracts those people.
So in your store, Cameron, what's the best-selling item?
The best-selling item?
Or I guess, is it an item or is it a group, or how do you explain it?
I would say it's a category. Suiting, we're very strong with. Yeah, we do very well with suiting. On the Browns corporate uniform side, funnily enough, it's medical scrubs. We do very well with medical scrubs, which took a huge rise during COVID, but it's always been very consistent. But yeah, Geelong is...
Just out of interest, you don't have to answer this. How many suits a year would you sell?
I'm not too sure. I'd have to look into that to try and give you an accurate answer.
I remember when reading a stat, because in Melbourne years ago they'd sell 1 million suits a year.
Some phenomenal.
Yeah, of course. I wore a suit the other day because I went to a funeral. Now, that's the first time in 4 years. But that's interesting because I wouldn't have picked suits as the top-selling item.
Yeah, we hire as well, so people can come in and hire for their special occasion, and that appeals to a lot of people. We do quite well with hire. So that's... Yeah.
So with stepping into the family business, obviously your dad and your uncle were running it. You stepped in. How have you found that transition? Because you've suddenly come from a digital marketing to bang, you're it.
Yeah. I've learned a lot. I've found it challenging enough to stay interested for sure. Yep. It's I was pretty naive, I think, in coming into the opportunity, in thinking that, right, I know all these skills about marketing and advertising business and I can increase demand by whatever because I've been doing it over here, and then landing and then having to learn a new industry, learn new team environments, and then understand the unique challenges of the particular business meant that by the time we were really ready to start using those skills were outdated. So it's been great. It's been the best decision I've probably ever made, or one of the best decisions I'd say I've ever made, because it gives me an opportunity to wake up and contribute to something that I really love doing every day and that I have a strong vision for and fulfills me.
So how have you been able to blend technology together with that obvious close personal customer service that you need, and which you obviously have because of the success of your business? How have you been able to blend in now technology to help improve the business?
The journey for us is one that required our team to have to learn new skills. We already really had the service part. That was already there by the time I arrived. So I learned that from them, really. So the journey has been helping folks who traditionally are very much people-orientated, very conversational. They're great at solving someone's problem and being very interpersonal while they do it, but then also to translate that into a computer so that our information can reflect accurately what's going on at any single point in time has really been the journey. So lots of training, lots of help, lots of exploration into what solutions are out there, with helping to make that as easy as possible. So it's been challenging, and it never ends. We're working on things just today that involve integrating new technology into the business. So we feel as if that's something that's going to be really important for businesses going forward. And so we'll try and be at the forefront as much as possible.
Do you do much online business?
No, I wouldn't say we do much online business. We have been working hard on that offering more of late. We had some technology in the business that was the software that ran all of our inventory and so on that probably didn't set us up for success in that area. So really getting working in that market meant a more foundational change for the business. We had to go back and really change a few pieces in order to set that up for success, which we've done now, which is good. So that's getting better and better, and we're really just getting ready to launch some campaigns that's going to target the fact that we've got a really strong online offering now, but as an overall mix, it's still a lot of over-the-counter walk-in business.
Cameron's, because I've got a slight inside knowledge, has been really good at thinking laterally, Bill. So you can now at Browns get your own embroidery done Do you want to chat
That's
a bit
right.
about that?
Yeah, so we brought that in-house recently. So we've done embroidery for a number of years, but we've worked closely with partners that has helped us with servicing those customers. And so eventually we were looking at the opportunity and the improvements that we can have in our service offering and in our cost structure to bring that in-house. And so we went for it fairly recently. We're only 8 months in or so on that particular endeavour, and it's been excellent. We've been really lucky to attract some good talent that's assimilated into the team very well, that's been willing to learn new things and adopt a whole new area for us that is proving to be really valuable for us. So,
You got to ask your question?
Well, I've just thought of another one.
Oh, okay.
Actually, no, we're on the fly here.
yeah.
You've redeveloped your store and you've split into two, and you're now letting the other half of the store to probably Geelong's best known and probably best jeweller. Has that changed the dynamics of that little part of Packington Street?
I think so. I've had a lot of feedback to that extent as well. It's really pleasing and nice to hear folks say things like, wow, that sets a new standard and so on, which is just great to hear, I suppose. But yeah, we're very lucky to attract a tenant like Duff's. The whole process working with them and up until getting them launched and so on, it has been really good. We've got a bit of a family relationship through my dad and Ross, one of the he's no longer involved actually directly. I think he's retired, but we've had a long-standing relationship with the family there, and so there was a few different parts that really worked to our favour and helped us to deliver that vision. So it's been great.
And on top of that, just recently Bupa have opened a very nice eyewear store right across the road.
That's right. Yeah, they've opened up
the
recently.
Dynamics are changing.
It's good to see. I like to see that we've got fresh new things happening that are capturing interest, but keeping the brand of Packington Street in general, and back to your original question about the business association, keeping that intact is critical. And so bringing new folks into the street while still maintaining that sense of place, it's nice to see that's all happening.
So the question that Bill normally asks, but I'll ask because he hasn't remembered it, is if we had a chat to your staff, what would they describe your leadership style as? And remember, they'll probably listen to this.
Yeah, that is a good question. It's interesting. I think they would describe me as highly organised, I think. I think that they would say Cameron likes a lot of structure, that he likes things that are repetitive, if you like. I like predictable. And so if we were using the model of authoritarian laissez-faire and so on, I think it's a mix of everything. It's hard to try and nail any leader, I think, down to one particular style because it's context specific, right? What works in one context doesn't work with the other and so on. But I think they would describe me that way. It's a structured workplace. There's a lot that I ask of them, and I'm really grateful to have an amazing team that I can really engage with, and we can talk about greater good, and we can talk about why, yes, while we do this menial task that isn't all that attractive to do and it's boring and so on, we can see how it works up into a larger vision and gives us a sense of team. So I hope they enjoy working there. I get the sense that they do. They're great folks.
Mark, I was reacquainted only last week with the working on your business and not in your business scenario for Michael Gerber.
Yep.
Who and one of the person that actually was going through his workbooks with me, were reminiscing about something. I came across an article about structure, and of course that's what he was always on, having structure. So you've got to have structure, but you've got to be flexible at the same time. So what's your proportion of working on the business and in the business?
I try and work on the business as much as possible, personally. I try and equip people with the skills that they need to be able to deliver what's required for the in-the-business stuff. I probably spend somewhere around 40% of my time in the business, and the rest working on the business. Just depends on sort of what the project is or what's happening at the time. But we've had so much growth as well over the last, I'm referring to the opening up of our online offering, assimilating new technology and so on. So that's a huge demand as far as time and energy to get the business changed in that way. So it's a massive priority for me, and I try and do it. And that's during a 38-hour work week, right? So that's not including...
Hey, who works 38 hours?
Yeah, that's right. So
But
It never stops.
that's right.
And retail 7 days a week. So.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that your father and your uncle and your grandfather and all this had worked 100% in the business, didn't they?
Well,
Because they didn't know any other way. There was no other. My father and my parents were the same. They worked in the factory all the time. They didn't ever go out and sit down and think about forward planning or strategy or changes. It was just one foot after another for a number of years. Along came the 1990s and changed everything.
Right.
That's what happened.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that last part in particular. I give massive credit to both my dad, Peter, and Jim, my uncle, grandfather, to all of the contributions and their amazing team as well. We've been very lucky to establish teams that have been together for a long time. And so I give massive credit to the team that has contributed so far and continues to do today. It's funny that, when we talk about on the business versus in the business, sometimes that line can be so blurred as well, right? Because what is creating a good relationship with somebody? Is that working in the business, or are you setting yourself up for success long term by establishing and fostering a culture that's going to give you return custom and give you good word of mouth?
Well, I'm going to bust Mark's conflict of interest open right here because you have engaged Mark to be your, I guess, advisor.
Yep.
But not from a point of view of a daily operation, but from the point of view of which most small and medium businesses miss out on, is that you have structured monthly meetings.
Yeah.
Mark chairs those meetings.
That's right.
And as a result, you've got some structure and you've got some systems and processes, most of which you're brought into the business. So, yeah, Mark, I'll pat you on the back for
me too.
for that. But that is part of working. That's working sort of on the business and not in it.
Yeah, good example. And my thanks extends to Mark for his contributions as well. It's been amazing to get a third party in the room where previously it was just the family, and having a really professional conversation that runs to an agenda and so on when it's just the family in the room was challenging for us. And I hear it is challenging for us. So, I extend that thanks to Mark as well.
So, understanding your mum, Trish, listens to these, where do you see the business in 5 years? What's your vision? Where do you see it?
So I see us continuing to operate the space that we're in. I see us having a much larger foot in the online market. That's really where we need to be. It's interesting how technology is making its way into retail and what opportunities there are to further bring new technology into the space. For us, looking at opportunities that can take what was previously a very manual sort of an offer, such as fine tailoring, and bringing that into today's age where things can be done with the computer much more easily and quick, potentially sees us moving into a space where we're offering more customization on garments. I think overall where the industry would love to go to is anything that a consumer can imagine the market can produce, and it's not a long lead time. So often you see people coming in to browse product and they might have something that they've either seen on the internet or that they've got in their mind and they're looking for it and they're struggling to find it. So solving that problem is a direction that we'd like to move further and further toward, and new technologies such as 3D printing and 3D scanning to take body measurements, for example, and create a garment that is really a personalized garment for one person is potentially something that that we can get a foothold in and begin to offer. It's pretty exciting, really.
There's something called AI, isn't there? That's coming.
Another conversation. So, Cameron, thank you.
Of course.
That was really good discussion. So, two things. Mr. Brands is located where?
162 Pakenham Street, Geelong West.
And the website is?
mrbrownsmenswear.com.au.
Excellent. And if you have got a wedding coming up and want to hire a suit or buy a suit, go and see them. If you want clothes, go and see them.
Or if you're about to operate on something, get your scrubs.
Get your scrubs. So thank you very much, Cameron.
Of course, thank you guys.
Thank you, Cameron.